like, welcome.
Hi.
Hi, everybody. So anyways, welcome to Paredox. I am your host, Gabe, and that's Andrew. This is the swear jar still with no money in it.
Okay.
I think I have money in my wallet right now. But anyways, we are two Orthodox Christians, two Orthodox Christian dads. And thank you to everybody who has liked and subscribed to our massive channel.
It's blown up.
What are we going to do?
I don't know. Fame has changed me.
Fame has changed you.
Fame has changed
That's
me.
not just regular tea anymore. That's chai.
Yeah, that is chai tea.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I just took a wild guess.
No, it is for real chai, and I won't drink anything else because everything else is piss water. So, I mean...
Is that what we're going to call this episode? Piss water?
Yeah.
Wait, is that swear jar?
No, piss.
Piss? No?
I don't think piss is a swear
Should we
word.
say piss like for the rest of the episode? Just say piss all the time?
Yeah, I mean, that's good content.
That is... For our massive audience.
Yeah.
All 6 subscribers right now are on pins and needles, and they're like, oh my gosh, what are they going to say next?
Yeah, for real.
Like I said, we are too. So if you like what we're doing and you want to subscribe or not subscribe and hit that notification bell down at the bottom, we greatly appreciate it. Tell a friend or don't. Either way, we're going to continue doing this because I don't know. I don't know why we do this.
This is more for us, kind of.
I think so. I think it's a chance for us to get together. I think
Maybe that's what it is.
I think that's really what it is. And, kind of step outside of kiddom and parentdom and husbanddom.
Yeah.
And be dumb together.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey.
That should be something. That should be something. I don't know what, but that's something.
Let's be dumb together.
Yeah.
Let's be dumb together. So, Andrew, as per the usual on the show so far, we are in episode 3. Hit him up with the disclaimer about what we are and what we won't do for them.
So, we're just 2 Orthodox laymen and not very good ones at that. So, we don't take anything we say to heart, you know, unless we're quoting the fathers, like the Holy Fathers or a saint. And even then, make sure we have the context of that quote correct. May double check everything with your spiritual father if you have one. And if we misrepresent or make a mistake in any way, please feel free to point it out. And I'm not above, or I try not to be above being wrong. So if there's something that you feel like we need to know, that's totally cool. So
Orthodoxy literally meaning the right. Like the right way, I believe. The correct.
Yeah.
So we are not going to be correct all the time, but most of the time, just by proxy, because we're Orthodox, we are going to be right about something.
Well, yeah, we have to be statistically.
The
law of large numbers. You stick enough monkeys in a room, eventually they'll get Shakespeare. They'll get Hamlet. So I mean, eventually we'll get something. So,
I hope so.
Yeah.
I feel like. God, this last week has been it's the holiday season. It's the holiday season.
No,
we'll get to all of it. Honestly, that should be the topic for tonight because this has changed me.
Okay.
The holiday season has been morphed now that I have a little girl.
Sure.
It's kind of all different. But we'll talk about that in just a second. If you have any questions, comments, anything you want to add to the show, any constructive criticism, like I should get a tan or something because I look super white tonight. You always look like orangey, which is good. You look like you get sun. I, on the other hand, don't.
That's jaundice. My liver is failing.
Your liver is failing.
Yeah.
Is this our last podcast?
No.
Is this it?
We got probably the doctors told me 9 to 12 more months. So.
Did you know that one of the scariest times in my drinking career was... We're both sober, by the way. I mean, I'm sure someone probably picked that up eventually.
Yeah, and I think probably most of the people who listen to this know us already. So, I mean, it's
That's
not
true.
Yeah.
We're not breaking any new ground with our 6 subscribers.
Yeah, for real.
What do you think, real quick, what do you think the apex of our subscription is going to be?
I don't really know, man. I don't think it'll ever probably break a couple hundred.
You think so? Man, I'd be stoked on that, though.
I mean,
I'd be stoked with 100.
I think eventually, if we get to 100, I think it'll probably go a little bit more than that. I could be wrong. I really could be eating my words. But Orthodox Christians, especially in the U.S., are usually pretty
small.
Well, absolutely.
I mean, we're expanding.
There's thousands of us.
There is literally thousands.
There's thousands of us. But usually they're pretty hungry for content.
That's true.
So, like, usually if you find a good podcast,
and once they find you, they
and
they stick to it.
And not only that, but
because
like
they're Orthodox.
Well, yeah, they got it.
I'm gonna sweat this one out.
Yeah, they're like, I'm not going anywhere. I know suffering. Like, I'll suffer through this.
Right.
So,
and this podcast is suffering.
Yeah. But I think that like, and also it is still kind of like new ground a little bit. I mean, I don't know how many like Orthodox Christian podcasts. There's probably more than I think that there are, but it's still not like
it's not fertile ground.
It's
and I know that we're the first podcast of this nature in the Christian Orthodox, almost the Christian realm. I did some YouTube searching. There's not a lot of dads doing Christian dad podcast stuff.
Oh. Okay.
So, I mean, even if a regular Christian happens to stumble across this and be like, idol worshiping, I want to learn about it.
Yeah.
Then there we are.
There we are.
And then we can teach them all about how wrong they actually are.
Yeah.
Which was supposed to be podcast 3. We were supposed to be like, all right, let's shut down all this.
No.
Ballyhoo.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, it was, but no. I actually like got a little bit tripped out today because I was talking with someone about that, and I actually like probably came down a little bit too hard on Protestantism. I definitely had to like take a step back because it was like
we tend to do that.
Yeah, and
I don't because I don't understand. I don't because I didn't grow up in it or
true.
have a lot of exposure to it, so I don't understand it.
Yeah, that's on it. Maybe it is an advantage, and maybe it's not an advantage. But like one of the things that I remember about being a Protestant kid is like I definitely did experience Christ in the church, because like. When I came back and started experiencing Christ in the Orthodox Church, it felt very similar to being a kid again. Like, I was like, oh, I remember this. Like, this is something I lost, So, yeah, but even then, at the same time, like, there's still so much whackness that comes with it. So,
yeah.
But the point is that actually, I talked with someone earlier about this who is a guy at my work who's very interested in Orthodoxy. Mm-hmm. His dad was actually Orthodox.
Okay.
And he's grown up and not really knowing a whole lot about what it is or anything. Mm-hmm. And he's been talking to me about stuff like that. And he actually's gotten even to the point where like one of his previous mentors actually said something along the lines of like, gave him like a book on miracles, how to like ask for miracles. And like I've learned about this book before, and it's really, really not good. It's like it's really, really it's like some IHOP stuff.
Okay,
like
gotcha.
It's just really, really not good.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to tell him, like, he was like, should I have like told her? And I was like, you're gonna really face this temptation coming up of correcting people, and it's gonna be like really difficult. Yeah, like especially because when I first became Orthodox, I was just like heretic. You don't recognize the Council of Chalcedon. You people are actually just like are neo like Arianists,
right?
Like you people are actually like neo like Gnostics and stuff like
right.
that. So or Gnostics, but anyway, it's difficult because then you want to walk around correcting, but yeah.
So I'm a really bad like quasi-host because I was getting to Paredox 1 or Paredox Podcast 1 at Gmail, and you can drop us a line and say hello.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's where I was going with all of this.
But
was
Paredox 1, the number?
The number 1. I put it up on the screen. I know you don't watch these, but I put it up on the screen. And I have a stork deliver our names.
There you go.
I do all of the editing, and it takes way too long.
Maggie liked it. She liked it. She watched it, and she was like, okay, I see.
I put little fires behind our names last episode.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do this episode, but I know I'm going to make an intro for it, which is good. Because, again, our 6 subscribers are pounding at the door.
Yeah, I know. I would wish they'd stop.
And they're just like, give us content.
I know.
Give it to us regularly and make it just great.
I'm not a machine, guys.
I know. I can only do this once a night.
I can only do this once a night. And this is exhausting.
I'm exhausted.
This is exhausting.
It's so funny because like sometimes when we talk at church, you are super like lively and like you're a little bit more animated, and every time we've recorded a podcast
I know Maggie. Okay, so I want to make this clear right now. Maggie said that her one criticism of me Maggie being my wife, it says that her one criticism of me is that I look like I'm just completely over it the entire time. Mm-hmm. And I'm not. I promise I'm
No,
not.
I know you're not.
It's late. It's just late.
It's
and
late.
Usually I've been getting my butt kicked all day.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work on it because I'm drinking tea. And also this one's a little bit more relaxed. So I feel like I don't have to be as on, you know?
Totally.
So, yeah.
Totally.
So I just kind of,
I never got the impression that, but I know that it would appear to some people.
Yeah, no, I'm totally
because
not
again,
over
they're
it.
pounding at the door. They're like, "Can Andrew please be more into it?"
The masses have been asking.
They've been literally being like, "Okay, if you guys need to talk about music to get him up and at it, then do that." You know?
Yeah, that's actually like usually the one thing that like perks me the heck up like right away.
It's
like,
true.
I can be sitting there, and somebody will say something about music, and like my head will like jerk. Like Maggie said, like a jackrabbit, my head will just jerk. Like, oh, I have an opinion about that.
Really good.
You're gonna hear it.
That's what was so weird about in our chat thread the other day when they were talking about Big Business, the band.
I don't really know Big Business.
I do, and I like when I listen to it, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. But it doesn't ring a bell for me as far as like, oh my God, this is really good, or oh my God, this is not good. And they're just like going to war, and I'm like, I don't have an opinion. It's one of the few bands I really don't have like a strong opinion on, because most bands I'm like, that sucks, that's good, that's okay, this could be better.
Sure.
With them, I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, really, and like the problem is that like I think a lot of times it's like I missed the boat.
Right. Totally.
I missed the boat on a bunch of that music is like because I remember trying to get pretty hard into like what was it? Is it like post punk? Is Big Business? What was it like post punk?
No, it's like I would describe them as like kind of almost stoner metal.
Okay.
But kind of in a little bit more thrashy.
Okay. Oh, then I don't know if I even listened to this at all.
Yeah, so. I mean, again, it sounds kind of like The Sword. Did you ever listen to The Sword?
Listen to The Sword.
Not as techy, but kind of the same. You know, or like Baroness, like the band Baroness, like
which I could never really get into.
They have some really great records, but then it all starts kind of sounding samey.
Well, I think the dude's voice bothered me.
Really?
I think I've got a thing about. That's what's always turning me off from stoner metal on the whole is a lot of times I'm really digging it and then they start singing. I'm like, oh, I'm just not into this at all. Like a lot of times it's like really washed out. And I know that that's kind of what they're going for.
Right.
Is like the vocals should be buried a little bit.
Yeah, totally.
And that's cool. I'm into that. But like a lot of times it's like a really nasally dude that's just like not singing very well. Kind of maybe trying to emulate Ozzy a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole genre is Sabbath worship.
Sure. You know? Yeah. I mean,
they should literally rename it to Sabbath worship.
I mean, I think like derogatorily it's certainly referred to as that. Like, I mean, like there's like a bunch of that stoner stuff that it's just like, no, you guys, all you do is just sit around and smoke weed and listen to Black Sabbath. Or like that's what you're certainly trying to come across as.
Sure.
But like, I can get into Uncle Acid pretty hard.
I love Uncle Acid.
I mess with Uncle Acid. Like, have you heard their I don't think it's probably their newest one anymore, but Wasteland. Mm-hmm. Oh man,
I'm a big Uncle Acid fan. Me and my wife. That's one of the bands that me and her really join on is Uncle Acid.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty cool. Like I thought that I got into them about the time they were about to release Night Creeper, and then I listened to Night Creeper and I was like, this okay, it sucks, but these guys have found a thing and they're sticking to that.
Yeah,
and
totally.
It's just like I don't know about this anymore. So I didn't really listen to it anymore.
Did you get into Paul Bear ever real quick?
Paul Bear was. I don't really have any reason I didn't, but no, I never really did. Like, anyways, I have nothing against them. I have no negative opinion of them or anything, other than that was not really my genre.
Yeah.
Like that stuff was like a certain type of person, and I was very much like, you know, I have like ADHD, and so I was more like into tech dev.
Yeah,
like
you were you're one of the only guys I can talk to about tech.
Yeah, like, tech is still pretty. I still don't really listen to it very much anymore.
It's a mess down there. Don't even. I mean, there's probably a dead body down there.
Oh, probably maybe a previous host that didn't work out.
Yeah. So. That was my other podcast. Yeah. That was my other one. What was I gonna say? There was this. Oh my God! It was earlier we were talking. Oh, my jaundice thing. I really want to touch on my jaundice thing.
Absolutely.
I remember when I was hitting the bottle real hard. I was a server, of course, because that's what all
alcoholics do. Yeah.
Restaurant business is just bread for alcoholics, 100%. Drug addicts.
It really, really is. We could break that down sometime, but it really
truly is.
Yeah.
And I remember walking into my boss's office one time, and he looks up at me, and he was this Argentinian guy named Raul, and he looks up at me and goes, "Oh, Gabriel, you are yellow." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Your eyes, your skin."
Oh,
he
you're
was like,
jaundice?
Yeah, so I went and looked at myself in the bathroom. I was like, "Ooh,
that's not good."
And I quit drinking for a whole week.
Oh, congratulations, bro!
Thanks. Yeah, I really knocked it out of the park. I was like, I'll just stop drinking for a week, see how that works.
Clear everything right up.
So anyway, stop drinking for a week and you'll be fine. That's the main point of this.
Yeah.
Done. Podcast over.
Yeah. We can go. We can really know that we can go to our graves knowing we really made a difference. So
somebody out there right now is like, I have jaundice. I just have to stop drinking for a week. So take medical advice from us, but don't take spiritual advice from us.
No, yeah. Medical advice, we're good. We got that covered.
I mean, isn't everybody a medical expert nowadays?
I mean, wow. When did things get so political, Gabe? I mean, let's take a step back and realize what kind of podcast we're on right now. But I know that speaking of Christmas,
hydroxychloroquine.
What?
Sorry.
I don't get where did you get that from?
Because we were medical doctors.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, sorry.
I have bad
Well,
joke.
you're banned now. You're banned. Now that you're...
Oh, yeah, that's right. We might be shadow banned on YouTube. That's why we don't have subscribers.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why.
Anyways, holidays. It's the holiday season. Let's talk about the holidays. So.
Well, I mean, we can, but I mean, I know that when I've always really liked Christmas, and I've always really, really liked Christmas, and I know that, we were actually just talking about this. I know that having a kid definitely changes that, and that suddenly really much more becomes about them, and making sure that they have a good Christmas.
Yes.
Because I was talking about this with someone from the church about, I kind of think like if you want to have a good childhood, a really banging Christmas is part of it.
I completely agree.
Like it should be magical. It should be fun.
Completely agree.
At least try to make it a little bit special. Like just something a little bit different,
Mm-hmm.
Start traditions. Every year you guys do this on this day. Maybe like my wife and I take our kids to the same place. My wife.
We do that every time.
My wife and I. Man, I busted out That's What She Said the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Dude, I actually...
That's still solid.
I'm going to put this other conversation on hold for 1 second.
Okay.
That's What She Said.
Well, we do that all the time.
It is so good. It's such a good joke. It's the great... I don't want to get into it, but it's the great equalizer of jokes. If you get a good That's What She Said...
and it just stops
everybody stops and snickers for a second. It's just
very true.
It's like a universal it's like a universal pause button.
Yeah,
for
it
a
is.
second or
it
something.
Is.
You could be as long as you're reading the room somewhat.
Totally.
Maybe not around a nun or something like that.
Or the narthex.
Where
most of my jokes happen.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if I'm opposed to the narthex. But maybe not around a nun. Certainly not around someone that's going to get offended, sure. But I think that
George from last week.
yeah. I think that it's totally I think it's totally kosher to still bust that out every once in a while.
I do too.
I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I try very hard not to be a lewd human being because I think it's not good. And I don't like being lewd for lewdness sake, but That's What She Said is still pretty funny. I can still get into that. So
I fight that temptation a lot because I think everything is funny, especially crude humor. I find especially funny. And I fight the temptation all the time to be crude because I just think it's funny. I think bodily fluids are funny. I don't think there's anything really off limits that you can't joke about.
No, and I think it's also a sign of humility too. And correct me if I'm wrong, please, but one of the things that is a really, really big pet peeve of mine Man, if it's not the pet peeve, is people taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah, we kind of touched on that last week about the guy that goes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
yeah, like I just don't know.
That's good Russian.
It was. I just don't know like how serious we can take ourselves, and I think like I could be wrong, but like God gave us like several parts of our body that like
are funny.
And like I don't know, it's like when you're talking to a person who's just really into themselves, and like I'm not even talking about in the Orthodox Church, like just in general,
right.
Like just a person who you can tell they just love hearing themselves talk and take themselves really seriously. It's like really to think about. It's like really funny, not funny, but it's like it is funny, but that's not all. It's like it's a way of like remembering who you are, to like remember like this person has had like wicked diarrhea at one point. Like it just like maybe they didn't think they were going to be okay for a minute because the diarrhea was so bad. And like it's just one of those moments of being like just remembering like who you are, like what you are, like no, like I don't know.
Like we're all basically what you're saying is we're all humans, and we're all going to have these really embarrassing situations. So the guy that's taking himself seriously, it's like, bro, you probably pooped yourself.
I mean,
right? I mean,
no, that helps me.
Yeah.
Anyway, because like, when people carry themselves with a certain like air to their actions when they walk, it like, I don't know. It's just like that has never served me any purpose. Like it's never helped me in any way. Like it's always really, really helped me to like be as real and as warm as I can, because there's a certain level of like honesty that comes out sometimes. I think that like people really respond really, really well to.
Right.
And I strive for that. I'm not saying I do a good job at it, but that's what I strive for, because it's like I find that like it works with my kids really, really well. That if I can be like, look, chill. Are you sad? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm sad. I was like, sure, you're mad because you're trying to like not feel sad, right? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, sweetheart, it's okay to be sad. I understand what you're feeling. You know, like I'll be talking with them when Christmas leaves, you know, because they're going to be bummed that Christmas is gone. And luckily we're Orthodox, so it's going to take longer for it to go away.
Right.
But at the same time, like being able to access that honesty, like kind of from your gut, is, I don't know, it's like when I can do it, it's really good. And it's also the same, like one of the keys to unlocking that is when you can just say like, I don't know.
Right.
I have no idea.
Right.
I really just don't. You know, like it's counterintuitive too, because I was raised in subculture, and in subculture you're supposed to know everything. You know, you're supposed to know like the weird unknown EP that was like before the band signed to the label.
Totally.
And that was supposed to be your favorite EP. Like all their newer stuff sucks. I remember this band called Fear Before the March of Flames.
Yeah.
And I really
like that band. Their first album.
So I did not like their first album. I thought their second one, Art Damage, was pretty cool. And then I really liked the Always Open Mouth. And the Always Open Mouth is a drastic departure from that.
Sure.
So I would listen to it and be like, wow, this is tight. But then like everyone would be like, yeah, but you know, their old stuff was way more. And it's like, and then like, of course, then I didn't let myself like that album, The Always Open Mouth.
Right.
Because it was not the cool album to like.
Totally.
So I think at a certain point, I just was like, yeah, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
And so when people can say like, at least right now, the next time someone tries to do the thing where they make up a band name and say like, have you heard of them? Like, have you heard of like Spyglass? Be like, oh yeah, I think I heard of them. It's like, oh, I just made it up. I'd be like, next time I'd be like, no, I've never heard of them, because I've never heard of them.
Isn't
before.
that? I mean, that brings up. I mean, there's so many things in there that I wanted to talk about, but I mean, isn't that interesting? How like, you know what I've noticed is like dealing with a client this week, being more intentional on just being honest and not skirting the truth.
Yeah.
Just to please them.
Yeah.
You know, and just be like, hey, like this is what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, and really being mindful of that, and like having that honest, like, and I think that comes from, I mean, at least for me, and this is again, I am a worm.
Sure.
Like, I've been trying to be more intentional with my prayer life, and I think the fruit of that is starting to manifest itself in my everyday life when I'm actually starting to think before I speak.
Sure.
Which is weird for me because I usually don't. Yeah. And so even like fighting, like we were talking about earlier, fighting the crassness that I can sometimes have. Our friend Levi at home right now is like, oh, Gabe. Yeah. Shut up, Levi. What do you know? But I found myself trying to be living more honestly, because I've never considered myself like an outright liar, but I'm a people pleaser. Yeah. And in the people pleasing pursuit, I always try to like skirt around to make sure that they're okay.
You like, I think it's always like, I think of it as playing the game. Right. Like the conversational game. Right. You know what I mean? It's like very da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. And then you're supposed to respond with this. And you like, then you come up to like, you have these 5 different options to choose from of things you can say. It's almost like a video game sometimes. It was like, do you want to respond like neutrally, angrily, good or bad or whatever, you know? And I feel like sometimes like that's the game, you know? And I feel like let your yays be yays and your nays be nays. Like it's really like, no.
And and it's weird that we do that with music too, or art or movies or anything. They're like, just to prevent some weird interaction, like someone will be like, hey, you like that movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? And you're like, yeah, it's cool. And then that's where the conversation ends, because either A, you really don't like it, B, you haven't seen it, or C, you don't remember if you've seen it or not. And you know, and by the way, that is the greatest movie of all time. It's my favorite movie of all time.
That movie got my wife and I back together when I was a girlfriend. When I was a girlfriend. When she was my girlfriend and she had broken up with me because I was a drunk loser. She watched that movie for the first time and then she was like, yeah, I think I want to get Andrew back. So,
that's really sweet. Yeah, and because I love that movie so much, it's incredibly sweet.
It's a great movie.
It's one of my favorite movies. It is my favorite movie of all time. But I mean, I've done the same thing when someone's like, "Hey, have you heard Washboard Symphony?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, I think so." Like you said, like, "Oh yeah," and you're just not being honest. No. And like, what does it hurt to say nope?
I think it's like some kind of it's like maintaining some kind of integrity of like you got to maintain some kind of like shield integrity around you or something like that. Like it's a total defense mechanism. Yeah. Because at some point, somebody made you feel like a real a-hole at like a party or something like that. Like somebody is like, at least for me, somebody was like, what? You've never heard of blah, blah, blah? That's and a good point. And then everyone kind of like looks at you and they're like, oh, this guy. So a specific example I have is I was a Norma Jean fan. I still am a Norma Jean fan, but back when
album was really good.
I have heard some of it. I like it. I was
really
like, good. I just don't ever feel like any like huge interest to explore their new stuff. It's good, but it's just like, why am I listening to this? You know, like, I don't know. I love them. Like, they're a good band and everything, but that's not the point. I went and bought a specific Norma Jean shirt from Hot Topic, which turns out, due to the unspoken rules of Christian hardcore at the time, was a poser shirt. If you bought that shirt, it means you bought it from Hot Topic and not from a show, because they don't sell that shirt at shows. Lord. So you went to Hot Topic specifically and bought. But when you're 17 or 18, these things are really important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And absolutely.
So I remember showing up and everybody kind of be like, nice shirt. Like, you know, like obviously they were in on the joke. I know. Now I can look back, and if I'm 34 in my 18 or 19-year-old body, I'm like, well, you guys have some kind of sick desperation in your life that you're clinging to these social mores like the way that you are.
Right.
But at the time,
it's super important.
Well, I guess I'm an a-hole. You know, like I'm the a-hole all along. Right. You know, that's the Shyamalan twist. It was me all along. And so,
or the Scooby-Doo ending.
Oh yeah, I take off my mask and it's me under there.
Yeah. But I would have gotten away with it if it hadn't been for you kids.
Yeah. And then when you can kind of shed that kind of stuff, you start to really actually like the stuff that you actually like. And it turns out that there's a lot of stuff I never let myself like that turns out I really do like. So,
I mean, and I've been thinking about this a lot this week when it comes to my daughter, and when it comes to just normal interactions like we were just talking about. I'm really finding my ground right now, because I am always open to change. One thing I think I do incredibly well is I feel like I'm very self-aware, and I never believe that I'm 100% right. I may believe I am in the moment, but I'm
Sure.
always willing to learn.
Yeah.
And it's about finding the royal path.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it is.
And what I mean by
is.
that is, like, I want to be that guy that, like, because obviously a lot of this I really don't want to talk about in this episode, but we will. I mean, my daughter's vaccine stuff.
Okay, sure.
Like, one thing I am coming to find out about myself is I detest black and white thinking.
Well, it can be very harmful. It can be really, really harmful on
Vaccines
certain
or
issues.
black and white.
Well, both.
Hey.
I mean, without a doubt, both. But do you know there's a line in Star Wars Episode 3 where Obi-Wan's confronting Anakin and he says only the Sith deal in extremes? Mm-hmm. Which is
I don't know that, but I'm saying.
So this is what's happening.
Continue.
This is what. But isn't that in and of itself making an extreme statement? Like,
sure.
Only the Sith deal in extremes.
Sure.
But I think that's supposed to portray some kind of deeper truth, which is that that black and white thinking can be dangerous. And I mean, there's certain things like, yeah, it is black and white. Like, there is certain things like that it is absolutely black and white. But most of the time, like, as an Orthodox Christian, more often than not, you know what I hear about things outside of, like, universally established truths, like that there are 3 members of the Holy Trinity.
Right.
Aside from stuff like
Sure.
that, certain doctrinal things we cannot
Sure.
back down on.
Sure.
Is, well, it is and it isn't. That's a
Right.
phrase I hear commonly. You
Right.
know, was, well, it is and it isn't. It's both and. You
Right.
know, it's well, you're looking at it, but you're not quite looking at it correctly. So,
Right.
like the phronema, the ethos of the church, the mindset that you get from the church allows you to be able to make calls like that of, like, there's like this giant, I don't know. It allows you to see things in a way of, like, being like, I'm okay with not knowing what this is now.
Right.
But being able to look back later, I can see what this is. You know what I mean? So, like, every fast, typically something challenging happens, right? Yeah, right?
Without fail, man.
And at the time, I'm like, what is this teaching me? And I can hyper obsess about that to the point where, like, I'm not teachable anymore.
Right.
Instead, I can kind of just say, like, I'm only really going to be able to see this in the rear view mirror.
Right.
So, that being said, I have to be able to stay in a lane of being teachable. And when I start thinking in terms of black and white about who is saved or who is in proper recovery or who's truly dealing with their addiction or who's truly seeking Christ, I have to really take into certain variables into account. Now, there's a cutoff for, though, because there's someone I know who's just outright ecumenist. Ecumenist meaning that they believe in the universal Christian church. Orthodoxy is just one aspect of the Christian church, that there's multiple ways to Christ. That's not something I believe. I just don't believe that.
Well, real quick on that, don't we have a preponderance of writings and other things that would tell us that that is not the correct path?
Yeah, well, and again, this is the wonderful thing. This is the wonderful thing about being Orthodox, is very few of these things are my opinions. I've been taught this. So, like, I didn't come to the conclusion, oh, well, no, it actually does make a huge difference on how you say, if you say the part in the creed that the Catholics changed, or if you take down icons, or if you refuse to have any kind of iconography in a church. No, that does actually make a huge difference. And what is your iconography? It's just not going to be holy icons. It'll be something else. So if that's the case, then no, I can't back down from that. Like, that is black and white to me.
Right.
Like, that's very black and white. Right. And talking with this ecumenist, I can honestly say, like, okay, I know you're wrong. Like, it's black and white. It's, no, you're wrong. It's okay, I was wrong at one time too, but what you're saying, according to the Holy Orthodox Church, is incorrect. And we have a good amount of writings that would talk about the idea of compromise to any of these, like compromise in respect to any of these beliefs that, like, the Protestants or Catholics, you know, whatever your thing is dangerous. It's like, you know, it leads to heresy. So
would it be safe to say then, in the confines of the church, that there are more times where things are black and white, but in the everyday rigmarole of life, shades of gray is where I want to walk in the everyday.
Sure.
In judgment of people, in rearing of my daughter.
Sure.
Because right now, and again, I'm open to change, man.
Sure.
Right now, I don't feel that I should insulate my daughter in such a fashion that like it's not. We talked about the TV thing last week.
Yeah.
I think there's a fine line. I'm starting to feel that there's a fine line between, like, okay, like, you're just passing her off onto the TV.
Which is a horrible babysitter.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it's this other situation. You know what I mean? And it's like, how much TV are you watching in front of your daughter? How much screen time? Right? I think there's a line that's more difficult to watch if you are on the other. So if you were the person that was like, absolutely no TV for me, my wife, my kid, that's a little bit easier because you're just completely removing yourself from it. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that if you're diligent and if you're conscious, you can do things that may not be considered holy. Well, I don't even know how to say it. It may not be considered, like, again, like some people may be like, oh, you can't believe you're letting your kid watch VeggieTales or whatever.
Sure.
But I think there's much like anything in life, I think there's a line, right? Where you can, if you're diligent, you can balance a proper, and they'll be fine at the end of the day.
Sure.
And I know this is probably not the teachings of the church, and believe me, I'm not saying that it is, but like I always go back to like sin itself. Mm-hmm. Like, when I go up to heaven, God willing.
God willing, yeah. For me, both, yeah.
Yeah. If I make it up there, like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to have to repent of.
Sure.
Right? Is God going to look at the list? Again, we don't know God's intent or whatever. And if he sees all sin the same, that's a whole other thing. But is he going to really look at it and be like, VeggieTales?
I don't know, I mean,
there just seems so many more egregious things that I am culpable for in my life.
Sure.
That.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely has to be like
that would be fun if he was like VeggieTales, bro.
Like, he's like, bro.
He's like, that's it.
I know that was about the most messed up thing you did.
Yeah.
But like, I think that, like, one of the things that makes us different from the West, and I'm really going to try and keep this pretty short and simple because I'm quickly getting into grounds that I don't know or understand, because I don't really understand God's judgment too much.
Yeah.
But I can say that, like, one of the things that, like, is it's not like God's problem, it's our problem. So, like, God doesn't put people in hell, we put ourselves in hell. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things about that distinguishes us from the West is that, the fires of hell come from the throne of God, like, because we are facing God for the first time and seeing ourselves as who we are. And if you're not prepared for that, if you haven't readied yourself for that, if you haven't worked on that, if you haven't repented of the things you need to repent of, and yada, 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 then you put yourself in a state of hell, So I don't really think it's so much about, like, if God is seeing VeggieTales as something bad, it's so much more as like, I mean, I guess, what is your attitude towards it? But even then, like, that's not really what I'm trying to say. It's more like, it's more like, are you going to feel bad about that, like, and again, like, sin, if we look at it as not so much as a tally system, but as a sickness, as are we participating in an illness, in the sickness, then that changes the whole dynamic of sin. And like, not only that, but like, we do have to make our way through the world. Right. Like I do have to run to the mall sometimes. Right. Like, so when I get into the mall, am I just gonna be completely overstimulated and have no idea what's going on? Like, do I need to get not have a smartphone anymore? Do I need to never watch TV again? Do I need to only listen to Orthodox music?
Some people would say yes.
Some people would say yes. And, I guess to a certain extent, like, God bless them. Like, but like, it depends on what that zeal looks like, how that zeal is actually playing out. Because there have been genuine times in my life where I thought it was a little bit overzealous to not listen to semi-blasphemous music. Now, I'm not talking, like, I had a line, but, like, there were bands that I really loved that would be somewhat blasphemous to God. At least have that one track on the album that just... Power Trip is a great example. Power Trip is a band that, like, I actually even... A little behind the scenes, I actually was driving for my old job one time, and I was struggling so hard with me listening to Power Trip, I actually called you and talked to you about it. Because I was like... When I was buying my house, because I was like... I'm just not doing well with listening to these guys. And I used to think it was a little overzealous.
What did I say?
You basically said, what is it doing for you? Like, what do you think it is igniting in you? Like, how is it affecting your soul? Like, the conflict is probably you trying to make it right, and it's just not right to do. Now, does that mean that Power Trip is...
I said that?
That was the similar? Gist. That was the gist of it. Yeah. No, it was genuinely comforting, and we talked for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, I remember we talked for a while. I just don't remember what I said, and that was not bad.
God enlightens people. I mean, he says, don't worry so much about what you're going to say before, like, kings and tribunals and stuff like that. Like, I got you, dog. Like, but I used to think it was a little bit overzealous, but now I genuinely see how that stuff affects me. So it's like, there are times where I would be called quote unquote hyperdox, because it's just like, no, for this whole day I've listened to nothing but Orthodox music.
I do too.
Because that's what I needed at that time.
100%.
So it can't...
I had that burning inside of me today, which I should have acted on, was like, I literally was like, you should listen to some chant today. Things are kind of... Things are kind of cattywampus in your soul, because, I had some stuff last night. Anyways,
it's brutal.
Yeah. And that always comforts me now. And sitting with my daughter and listening to that stuff, it makes me feel better. So why wouldn't I?
No, I think that's...
But I was ignoring him because I'm an...
Yeah, I mean...
Man, I almost did it.
I mean, yes. And I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting down with a comic book, and like, right when I'm getting ready to open it up, I look over and just happen to catch like the writings of, Saint Nicholas, Saint Nikolai. Saint Nikolai Velimirovich. I'm like, okay, and just kind of keep going. Like, there's my buddy.
And it's like, and it's going over in the corner like. Tss.
I know, and I know that's a total, like, my guardian angel, like, flicking me on the ear. Just being like, come on, buddy, give me something here. So I know that stuff is definitely safer, without a doubt.
Right.
But, like, also, like, in my catechism, I became extremely overzealous. And I would say outright fell into to the extent that a catechumen can, which is probably severe, but not as severe as a person who's actually taken part in the sacraments, but like of some genuine spiritual delusion. And a lot of times it's very painful for people who have fallen into spiritual delusion over things to go back to that thing. Right. So you sometimes have people who like fasted way too hard, and out of a place of like overzealous, maybe they didn't talk with their spiritual father or something like that, and then they find fasting very, very hard later on. They just can't do it. Like, they don't see the point. They don't have any motivation for it or anything. So, because it reminds them of that time, so.
I always go back to the fact that, I got to get close to the mic. I'm lazy today. I always go back to the fact that, that out of all the homilies I've heard, all of the spiritual fathers that I've been blessed with serving next to and all this kind of stuff, they all agree on one universal thing. If they agree on anything, it's all the one universal thing is, if you're going to do it out of love. Fasting without love is dumb. Prayer without love is done. It's just not gonna. It's just not gonna fulfill you. It's not gonna look. Christ isn't going to shine upon, or bless that with grace or whatever. Just that's why, like, when everyone does it. You go into the church, you're zealous. You're like, I'm gonna fast. I'm gonna do this.
I'm gonna become a priest or a monk or something,
or
like
a deacon
that.
or whatever it is. And you're gung ho, and that's awesome, because that may carry over some real bad humps.
Oh yeah,
But at the same time, like, again, I think with everything, I'm coming to this point, and that's what I love about Orthodoxy. And by the way, I've been wanting to tell you this for a day and a half. Orthodoxy is so much like a really good 12-step program. It works if you work it.
Yeah, you have to.
I thought about that, and I was like, it was like this huge light bulb, and I was like, oh my God, like, Orthodoxy is the perfect recovery program.
It is. I mean, that's a whole episode in and of itself. Yeah, is like
it may not be. But it may be.
No, I mean, it's my life. It's my work.
Right.
That's literally the thing I'm probably like the most healthily passionate about. Yeah. Is like, no, like, no, this is not. Your higher power cannot be whatever you want it to be. Right. Like, it has to be God as he is, and like, that's even what Dr. Bob and Bill W. intended. That
Dude,
whole, like,
don't even get me started. Yeah.
That whole, like, God as you understood him was still within the frame of the biblical God. Like, it was like, no, we are talking about the Judeo-Christian God. Like, we're talking about... The
12-step program was a Judeo-Christian...
It's a Christian program. It's entirely built upon biblical, like, principles and everything 100%. Like that. And there's actually a really fantastic book called The Good Book and the Big Book. Or it's The Big Book and the Good Book. I can't remember. It's one of those. But, he's a big deal in the recovery community. I can't remember what the author's name is right now. He also wrote a bunch of recovery or relapse prevention stuff. It's like I can't remember his name. He's fantastic. But he talks about actually AA has become a lot less effective as it's moving farther away from Christianity. And
wow,
it'd have to be. It'd have to be, like, because you're not doing the same thing anymore. And because again,
you're giving. This is going to sound weird, and you probably disagree with me. You're giving the addict too much free reign.
No,
to develop their own concept of ideas hasn't been working.
No.
So if you go, just do whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever
works, you. Whatever helps you. That's still going to spin them into this place. That's not what they need. They need the realization of Christ in their lives. Anyways,
No, I mean, you're truly preaching to the choir. Like, I mean, it's 100% true. And I can't tell you, like, I can't remember who said it, but it's in that book, The Good Book and the Big Book, where it was someone's wife. I think it was either Bill's or Bob's wife. And she said, like, we don't need to worry about pleasing alcoholics. Alcoholics have been pleasing themselves for a long time. Like, and it's like fantastic.
Wow. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And, again, I don't really want to get too into it, but, like, I find that, like, speaking bluntly, what we were talking about just a second ago, that's the only thing addicts really, and alcoholics really respond to really, really well. Yeah. And I had this guy one time, and I maybe even talked about it before. But it's tired. I'm tired. It's late. I'm not too worried about it.
It's tired, and I'm tired.
It's tired, and I'm late. But I was talking to him, and he was kind of having a breakdown, and he needed a counselor at my work. And his counselor wasn't available, so he met with me. And he basically sat down, and he was just like, look, I've tried recovery before. I've tried all this different stuff before. It doesn't work. Like, the program doesn't work. I was like, look, bro. The program works. You don't work. You're the problem. It's not the program. I was like, and he, like, his head jerked up and, like, looked at me, like, right away. He was like, what? Like, not that I'm blowing his mind. I'm not, like, blowing his mind, but what's happening.
You're telling him what he already knows.
What George Orwell says in 1984, a good book confirms what you already know. A good counselor confirms what you already know. Mm-hmm. Like, not a good priest. A priest needs to show you new things, but a good counselor just confirms what you already know.
Right.
And it's like, this is your fault. It's not your mommy. It's not your daddy. It's not the uncle who did messed up stuff to you, although those things certainly play a factor. The problem is you. It's you. You are the problem. and it's okay. I was the problem. And I have to just completely change to be able to do things differently in a way that actually starts being beneficial to my spiritual program. So when you go in and you have to like, the one thing that like is so prevalent right now is this entitlement of like, people call me and they're like, I'm ready to get help. I'm like, okay, fantastic. All right. So we need to find you a place to go for about 2 to 3 weeks because that's how long the waiting list is at my work. And they'll be like, what? 2 to 3? I don't have anywhere to go for 2 to 3 weeks. And I'm like, you need to find me a place to go. I'm like, well, we've just been waiting for you, buddy. What did you think was going to happen? You're going to walk and we're all just going to stop what we were doing and like come run over and like take your shoes off and massage your feet and like get you ready. It's like, no, bro. Like, you got to do some suffering for a little while. Like, and it's going to be suffering.
And here's the thing, coming from the same field, addicts and being addicts ourselves, we are the most resourceful people on the planet.
Yeah, for real.
You don't think you can scrounge together a place to stay?
I'm staying at my landlord's nephew.
Right. Come on.
Best friend.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
You can find a couch.
You can find. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. No.
I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to hear it, dude.
Yeah.
I used to look at some of the people I counsel and be like, come on.
No, I literally
like if you could point me to 7 different houses right now if I wanted to score.
Oh yeah, 100%.
At least
you'd walk all the way across town to get like
in the snow.
Yeah,
uphill,
both ways
to score. So don't tell me that you can't find a place to crash for 2 weeks.
St. John Chrysostom was actually chiding his crowd in one of his homilies, and he's talking about like.
I love his autobiography, by the way.
He is the man.
Yeah.
Like speaking.
Not autobiography. Excuse me.
He is the man.
Yeah.
Like speaking bluntly, that dude, he just like outright just tells it how it is. Like 100. He just speaks truth. It's just like yes. Like, but he was talking about he was chiding his crowd a little bit. He said like you guys will like stand hours in the rain to watch like a chariot race or like watch like the games at the pavilion or the plays, the theater. You know, you guys will stand for hours, but if it's a little misty out, you won't come to church.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God. One of my favorite quotes, and this does not have to do what we were talking about, but I just love St. John Chrysostom so much. But he talks about like people, he's again chiding the crowd about like their lack of almsgiving. He's like, you will, on your way home from church after taking part in the body and blood of Christ, will go home and step over homeless people without even thinking about them.
Right.
He's like, and you're not even worried when you go to your prayer corner that night about getting struck by lightning. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude.
Dude, he was the best.
Like, every time I read him, I just like, I put the book down. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, this dude is killing it. He's just like nonstop. Like, I don't know. He just tells it how it is.
The first Orthodox Arthur. I can't speak English now. Author I ever felt like that was Alexander Schmemann.
Yeah,
I'd read his stuff, and I'd be like, man,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Because I wasn't reading the Church Fathers at the time or anything, and I was just like, man,
yeah,
that makes sense. All this.
People really like it when you tell them to a degree, because so far I have not had anyone say like, you buddy, and walk out because I've said something to them. That's coming. It's
100%.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But so far it hasn't happened, and so it's been my conclusion. At least addicts and alcoholics are looking for somebody to kind of punish them a little bit because they kind of need it.
Yeah.
So like, have you read Crime and Punishment?
Mm-mm.
If I could, I would make everybody I know, everybody I work with, read that book. Because the whole premise of it is a dude does something wrong, and he's basically trying to convince himself the entire book that what he did was okay.
Right.
And the only time he got relief was at the very end when he starts getting punished for his crime. Like, starts actually getting punished for it. And it's fantastic. It's a fantastic book. But some people, like, will come, you know, want counseling, and they'll talk to me and be like, I just feel anxious about this thing, you know, like, you know, I just really don't feel like I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a very good person, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just like, well, yeah, because you're not. Like, the thing that you did was pretty awful, you know? Like, you left your kid alone for like a day and a half, you know, so you went up to go score. You know, you should feel terrible about that. He's like, well, he's fine now. I was like, by the grace of God, he is fine. You know, by the grace of God, he made it out okay. But, like, he had a junkie as a father. Like, yeah, you were a bad dad. It's okay. I was too, you know? Like, but, and, like, a lot of times, like, they respond really well to that. Like, they respond really well to, like, oh, yeah, okay, I can see that. Like, I really need to think about that. I'm like,
right.
Yeah, you do.
Right.
You do need to think about that because there's some really vast implications behind your behavior that, like, you have not dealt with yet because you're running from it.
Right.
And the sooner you face it, the sooner you're going to be better off. So,
right. Right.
Yeah.
Because that's, I mean, facing our iniquities, facing our fears and facing anything about ourselves is not only extraordinarily tough, but it's also where the most progress can come out of.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, that's one thing I learned. The biggest thing I learned in my sobriety was, like, making the tough calls on yourself and saying, like, man, like, I still have remorse, guilt, pain, all of the above for the actions that I've committed in my life.
Yeah.
And there will be some people that I will never ever be able to
Make
say
it right with. Yeah.
And even if I tried, they wouldn't accept it.
Yeah.
Trust and believe
I
that.
got 2 of those people, without a doubt.
Man,
Yeah, I got
like 5, I think.
Yeah, I got like 2 of those people.
Yeah.
Like,
But you have to settle into it, and you can't flog yourself about it. You can't say, like, oh, I am a worm, and you just have to just repent, pray for them. You know, and pray to God that they'll forgive you.
And it's okay. In my opinion, I don't know if this is right. In my opinion, it's okay for me to just never feel okay about that.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay for me to be laughing and having a good time with someone, and I think about that situation.
And you're sorrowful.
And I'm sorrowful, and suddenly, like, I'm not having such a good time anymore.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right,
like,
right.
That's just part of my penance. It's just
100%. I agree with that.
I've forgiven myself to the extent that I can right now, but, like, also, like, I don't need to feel good about that. Like,
Right.
and even if all those people came to me right now and said, like, do we forgive you? Everything's okay. I still don't really need to feel okay about what I did. You know, that's something I need to, like, that's a correction I need to have, like, every time, like, I start to feel too uppity about myself. You know,
Right.
It's just like, yeah, but you also did this.
Right.
You know, or, like, I start to feel like, you know, there's something I quote all the time from Fahrenheit 451 where he's like, the premise, do you know the book?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he repents, or he changes his mind.
Yes.
And he starts to see everything for what it is. He starts, like, ridiculing. And the dude that's talking to him is like, careful, that was you 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Like, so I had to remember that at all times. So it's like, that was me. You know, that was me doing this horrendously stupid stuff. Like, making these awful decisions. And, like, yeah. I actually, if I repeated the whole conversation I had with the dude yesterday, I'd have to put, like, $2 in the swear jar. Because I basically told him to stop being a little B. Like, I was like, you're 52 years old, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Go to a meeting. Like, and he was just like, yeah, I guess I should. I was like, yeah.
So get the F out of here.
Well, I was talking on the phone with him.
Oh.
And I was just like,
I like the story better when he's sitting in front of you.
if that's what you got to do.
Yeah, no,
cool
that's
with
what
me.
I have to do.
But
thanks.
at the end, I just like, I was like, I said goodbye. I was nice. I'm saying, like, look, I know I'm being hard on you, but you kind of need someone to be hard on you right now because he was just, it's that moaning. It's that moaning that I just can't, I'm just really trying to take care of myself right now. And I haven't drank since yesterday. And I'm just like, and that's that whole, like, self-care thing. It's just like, yeah, it's just like, it is what it is. But, like, I just hung up the phone. I was like, idiot. Like, I mean, I don't know what to say. You're just an idiot. Like, I love you. I'll pray for you. You know, I know what his name is. I've been trying to pray for him, you know, to the extent that I can. It's like, you're kind of an idiot. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So let's wrap this show up here. But before we wrap it up, we've been going for a minute. But before we wrap it up, let's talk about the magic of Christmas.
Okay.
And the balance that we all have to strike when we're raising our children in both the Orthodox Christmas version and the secularized, homogenized Christmas. Again, I think it's all about balance. I fully plan on telling my daughter that Santa Claus... Take your kids out of the room. Mm-hmm. Santa Claus isn't a thing.
No, it's St. Nicholas.
You're right. Yeah. And here's what... And, you know, I'll tell the differences between ho, 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 and then
slapping heretics. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Slapping heretics. Yeah.
That's the name of the episode.
Okay.
That's
good.
That's Slapping Heretics. I won't text you about this one.
That's fine.
We already got Slapping Heretics.
That's cool.
So, you know, but letting her also feel... So, in Andrew's life, how do you let them experience the magic of... Because the magic of Christmas, in my mind, is the secularized one, because that's what I grew up with. The presents, the lights, the Christmas tree, the December 25th, the Santa Claus, the reindeer, all of that kind of stuff. In Andrew's mind, can you balance the Orthodox version of that and the other version of that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty loaded question. So I'll try my hardest to
You're on the clock, buddy.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's wrap this up in 4 minutes. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's possible. It's tricky, and you're definitely, like, if you're anything like me, you're going to fail a couple times.
Sure.
I can tell you that
I'm going to fail.
Like, yeah, that's good. Like, I can tell you that there are plenty of really wonderful activities you can do with your kids that don't necessarily ignite, like, the passions per se. Like, part of the Christmas culture is eating too much. It's a stereotype that you gain 10 to 15 pounds during the holidays because you're eating so much, like, cookies, and you're drinking eggnog, and you're eating meat like you wouldn't normally eat. You're maybe eating more than you normally would.
Yeah, totally more.
And and then there's the materialist of, like, what am I going to get?
Right.
Like, and it could become about the presents alone, and, like, and all that stuff, like, really at the end of the day, like, a lot of it's just not good. Like I'm talking about that stuff. The lights, the music, all that stuff is still
Me and you
magical.
are Christmas music fans, right?
Oh,
if I remember correctly.
I actually, I genuinely, not ironically, not, like, just because it's Christmas music, really love a ton of Christmas music. It's, like, really well written. It's, like, really well performed.
I love Christmas music.
I think it's the jam. It's
I was listening to it today when I was driving around.
Yeah, generally from, like, Thanksgiving on, it's pretty much nothing but Christmas music. I mean,
I do the same thing.
It's my favorite time of the year, without a doubt. Like, I love the holidays, like, all of them.
I do too.
I love, not so much Halloween anymore, but I love building up to Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And I love Thanksgiving, and then I love Christmas.
Me too.
I don't really like New Year's. And then I love Nativity. But, like, there is a total balance. Like, my wife and I, for the first time, did the actual St. Nicholas tradition, which is, like, you leave shoes out, and then you put, like, coins and oranges and stuff like that. And it's wonderful. The kids loved it. And we tried really hard we're trying harder every year to downplay the gifts. Like, the gifts are not going to be such a thing in our house. Like, you'll get one maybe big thing, you know? Like, we got them, like, if you're listening, don't listen. We got them, like,
we got them a PlayStation 5.
Man. I mean, no, but we did get them a place. Like, it's got, like, a little slide stuff we could stick in our basement. And that's hopefully going to be about it, you know? But, I
think that's the most important thing to teach our children.
Is the lack of material. Yeah, I think,
Look at where you live, kids. Yeah. Look at the food. Feel the food in your tummies.
For real. Like,
and the grandparents are, like my brother said, he was like, I didn't get my kids anything this year.
No.
He's like the grandparents, they do enough.
Yeah, they do too much.
They do too much.
They do too much. That's the grandparents' right. Whatever. I wish it weren't that way, but it kind of is.
Right.
The last thing I'll say is, the one thing that you really should look out for if your kids are anything like mine is definitely the sugar intake. So one of the things that you have to remember, and I promise I won't go on about this, but one of the things that you have to remember is that your kid, if you're listening to the show and your kid's baptized Orthodox, is that they're going to experience things differently than other children. They're baptized Orthodox. Life is just going to be different for them.
Yeah.
They experience reality differently. So, like, if an Orthodox child watches 2 hours of TV, that might turn them into a monster because they have the seal. They have the mark. Like, they've been baptized. They have Christ's seal on their soul. Demons interact with them differently than they do regular kids. So a secular child, or whatever, quote-unquote secular child, can watch 2 hours of TV and be perfectly fine afterwards.
Right.
Most of them aren't.
Right.
But sometimes they really can.
Right.
However, an Orthodox kid watches 2 hours of TV or whatever. And again, I'm not knocking parents who let their kids watch TV. That's totally fine.
Right.
But like at the same time, they can watch 2 hours of TV and be a total monster afterwards.
Right.
Like just, it's different. It's different for us. And one of the things about sugar is like, I had this whole thing about sugar, and sugar causes my children to become very disobedient. Like very just like outright like looking at me and just being like, no. Like, no. And it's
a great drug. Sugar is a fantastic drug.
A buddy of mine said that, my buddy Cyprian said that, like, when sugar was brought to Native Americans, certain tribes would be like, they saw it and they're like, no, we know what this is. We don't want this. We know what's up with this. We're good on this. Thank you.
Right.
So, yeah, and the level of sugar that kids intake just from, like, the smallest amount of candy is probably much more than we were meant to handle. So again, I'm not even knocking candy, I'm not knocking sugar, whatever you do with your kids, you know, I'm not here to bash it. At the same time, like it can cause certain Orthodox kids, and I'm only speaking to my experience here, to become like very, very mischievous, and like not in a cute way, but in like like it can almost border on like a right, you know, like an ability, a thing that gives a demon power,
right?
You know, it can. So
letting them listen to Brenda Lee's Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, stuff like that, you're good with that?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. And I found that, like, actually, like, in my partaking of, like, earthly pleasure, quote-unquote, like, my nativity has actually really been deepened and enriched, like, because, like, on a very base level, like, I'm not full of junky food all the time. I can pay better attention to things.
Sure.
So when I'm walking and looking at lights with my family, I'm more present. I'm
Right.
getting more out of it.
Right.
Because maybe I'm even a little bit hungry, so I'm a little bit more like attentive,
right?
You know, because of the fast, and that's the point of the fast. One of them, anyway.
Yeah,
is to get you to realize like stuff isn't really too good for you, you know?
Right.
So it's okay in moderation, but yeah.
I saw, because of how into Christmas I am, and I really want my daughter to be into Christmas, and my wife is relatively into it. We're really different people, me and my wife.
Me too. Me and my wife too.
It's
yeah,
funny.
That's good.
It's good though.
It's really good.
I couldn't be married to myself. Ugh.
No, Father Cosmos, a fantastic priest monk, Orthodox talks on YouTube, talks about like people who marry people who are like them. It's just not good.
No.
He's like, my wife is a bit more fiery than I am, but like there are times where we need to be fiery.
Yeah.
So and then there are times where we need to be chill.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit more chill than my wife.
Me too.
So.
But yeah, I mean, but seeing, Eloise like was awake during her first snow the other day, so I took a picture of her looking out the window.
Sure.
We have these beautiful picture windows that look out on our property, and she was just like, "Wow, look at the snow." And my fondest memories as a child was always Christmas morning.
Oh, sure.
100%. There's nothing that'll beat it. I remember most of my Christmases. I can't remember stuff that happens last week.
Sure.
But my Christmases, I remember, and I remember how magical. Christmas, I didn't sleep very well as a child. I don't sleep very well now. I was a very fearful child. I was always afraid of people breaking into my house.
Sure.
I don't know why. We lived on a quiet block. My neighborhood was awesome.
Maybe you watched Home Alone or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, but we didn't watch a lot of bad TV, you know, and which is weird. My parents aren't Christian; they were hippies, but whatever.
Yeah.
But I was always afraid that something bad might happen to my house or something.
Sure.
But Christmas Eve was the one night every year that I slept good because I felt like I was safe. It was the safest time of the year.
Did you sleep by the tree?
I have before, yes.
Yeah. I slept by the tree
I felt it was so warm and comforting, and for the last few years, it's kind of been like, it's all right.
Yeah.
It is me and Paige. Some days we kind of put up a tree last year, but we were in transition to this house last year, so it wasn't that special. But man, seeing Eloise like looking at the lights and the ornaments. I just want her to have that same experience. I want her to be just so into Christmas and all aspects of it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I want her to look at. I mean, did you see my lights? I did.
Yeah, your lights looked good.
I did an all right job,
Yeah,
and I threw them up literally 3 days ago because snowpocalypse is coming.
Yeah.
But I want her to be so into it and so into everything, and it's just. Now I feel the magic again. It's crazy.
It is. It's a wonderful feeling.
It's so great. Because I've always been into it. I try to get into it every year more and more, but with Eloise, now that just knowing that God willing, there's going to be a time where she comes into my room and says, Dad, it's Christmas, wake up.
Yeah.
Dude, that is the coolest thought in the world to me, that she's going to be, that we're going to drive my wife crazy by being up way too early. Yeah. Because my wife cannot get up early.
Sure.
But like
doesn't she wake up early for work though?
Yeah, but it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah, I have to
throttle
her. No,
You know what I do with my wife? I think I talked about this before. I play Disturbed.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Sound of Silence. And put it on the opposite side of the room, so she has to get up to turn it off. But
it's the small tortures that we indulge in.
I mean, I think
because being married to us is probably small torture for them.
I mean, most likely, my wife I know knows way more about comic books than she ever wanted to know.
Yeah,
she's just like, I don't care about this at all.
I don't know. I really
the magic comes back, and it's neat because like I'm 34, and I told people at 30 like I don't need gifts anymore. Like don't get me gifts. Like that's not really.
I literally don't care.
Andrew. It's like
if I get nothing. Me and my wife haven't exchanged gifts on Christmas in years.
Yeah, I still get my wife a gift, but it's mainly just a reason to buy something I normally probably wouldn't get her. Like
see. The first thought that comes into my mind is, do you get her cooking supplies?
Well, I have before, and she probably would actually really dig that.
But I'm just...
I know, it's like getting her a vacuum or something like that. It's like, yeah, this is to improve your quality of house cleaning. But no, I'm actually a pretty good gift giver. I'm
opposed to that.
I'm actually genuinely a pretty good gift. But now she's doing the thing where she's like sending me stuff off Amazon. She's like, hey, this would be nice, but like I decided like a month ago what I'm getting her. So, and she listens, so I'm not going to tell what it is, but yeah.
Maggie, since you do listen, can you please make me some chocolate chip cookies for Nativity?
Yeah, she probably will.
Just 3. I don't even want a whole batch, just like 3 of them.
Just 3.
She makes amazing chocolate chip cookies, by the way.
She's a very good little baker.
Extraordinarily well. She bakes extraordinarily well. But so what are going to be your plans? Do you still celebrate December 25th with the other sides of
December
family?
25th doesn't really mean as much to me, especially this year. And like actually that's probably like my least favorite day because there's so much pressure to have fun on that day. And it's like, no, it's about the whole season for me. It's like a month. It's like a month-long holiday for me.
Me too.
So the 25th is the least important part. Like, not the least, but it's not any more important than anything else. Because as far as I'm concerned, it carries over to the 7th for us. You know, when Nativity is. It's after that when like, okay, it's over. It's time to start putting stuff away. Like
totally.
Maybe a week after that, like it's time to start.
I usually try to do about a week after the 7th. We'll start taking everything down. But
it's a huge bummer. Like it's a really big bummer, but it is what it is.
I'm excited for her to experience both. Is that weird? I'm excited for her to experience like the December 25th with her regular or not her other family and all that kind of stuff, and then have the Orthodox experience too.
I used to be like that. The problem is at a certain point, like things start getting weird because like, okay, so I don't know what your fasting schedule is like, and it's okay. I keep my eyes on my own plate, or I try to, but like,
I only do vegetable broth the whole month.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, just vegetable broth and dry bread every 3 days or something like that.
And a prune. One prune.
Yeah, that's just to keep you regular. But like it becomes awkward at a certain point when like your in-laws or someone are serving like meatloaf, you know, or like ham or turkey. It's like, so do we just take a break from the fast? It's like, I mean, no, we really shouldn't be. Like, I mean, unless it's like very special circumstances. And of course, if you get a blessing, you know, that's awesome. But like the real thing is like, no, this isn't the holiday though. The 25th is not the holiday. It's the 7th. And like the 25th is nice and everything like that. But the 25th also encapsulates a bunch of the stuff that I think is problematic about Christmas, the Christmas season. It's the getting of the gifts. It's the eating too much food. It's the kids running around in a frenzy, watching TV, getting on iPads all day while the grown-ups like sit around and day drink because it's Christmas, you know, whatever. It's not a big deal. But those are the aspects like I don't really want to be so much a part of my kids' lives. The 25th is neat, and we'll have some traditions on that day. It's St. Herman Day. There's certainly like St. Herman's Names Day, so there's certainly like traditions that go along with that, and that's wonderful. Those are good traditions to have, and they keep the soul in a good place. rather than like maybe a bit overindulgent. Because a Theophan the Recluse talks about limiting your children's pleasure to help them to stay away from the world as much as they can. And that's definitely a big one for me, is like, I don't want my kids for that to become synonymous with like, you know, that Lego set that they asked for. Something like that'll be part of it, sure, but it might be a smaller one that they asked for, you know, or like something like that. But like, I lost pretty early on the real reason for the season, and like I'm like, that's not gonna happen. I don't want that to happen again. So,
but there's confusion in our own church, though, isn't there?
Oh, without a doubt. And like, and again, like, it just depends on what is important to you at that time. And it's not even like I'm saying like, well, I guess you'll just have to figure out where your priorities are. It's not even like that.
Right.
Like, are you to the world or are you to Christ? It's not like that. At a certain point, it's like that music that I was talking about earlier. It just starts to kind of feel ucky. And you start to feel like the sticky, sweet, like, the problem with the secular traditions of Christmas is that they're very vapid. And that's not the nature of Christmas. We're talking about God becoming incarnate and being born of a virgin while that woman remains a virgin. Like, that is what we're talking about. Like, if you don't have that, what do you have? And very vapid traditions that, like, stealing someone else's words here, and if they're listening, they know who they are. But, like, this is not my original thought. This is theirs. But, like, all you have left is, like, chasing some kind of, like, sentimental feelings. And there's nothing very spiritually productive about that, because being sentimental, to a degree, can be harmful. And so at a certain point, it's like, what is important here? And eat the meat, spit out the bones. And the bones are those aspects of the 25th that I don't like.
Right.
And I'm looking to, like, not really have be a part of my children's, like, to me, I want it to be fasting, being vigilant, being a bit more prayerful, lights, the fun Christmas music, mom and then making like fun Christmas decorations, like listening to the music and dancing around the kitchen and stuff like that. You know, like going and getting a tree and lights, and then having a big, wonderful, awesome meal with a whole bunch of your friends on the 7th, and then waking up the next morning and opening some modest presents.
I may be letting the vampire in, but in all fairness of living a life of rigorous honesty, like, I'm gonna have to find that out for myself.
Oh, and you may not. I mean, it may not be what you're
like, because right now, like, I literally, even with the fasting thing, I'm like, we'll make it work.
Hey,
yeah, like,
God bless you.
And as far as, like, you know, like, because again, isn't it, for me, in my mind, and it's probably rationalizing it, it's like the more important part of fasting is, so if we break the fast with our family on the 25th, like, especially if we do get a blessing or whatever, like, why would that be so confusing for my daughter as like, hey, we have a blessing to eat this traditional meal with our family who celebrates on the 25th, and my brother who's Orthodox celebrates on the 25th.
Sure.
So
his new calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. And again, I might be setting myself up for a disaster.
Or I could just be being a bit overzealous. It could be. And that's definitely a thing within the church, without a doubt. But what I have found through experience is that, like, I broke fast last year, and I broke fast really hard on the 25th. Like, and it just didn't sit right with me. It's just like, if I'm having to be completely honest, and again, bad zealotry is zealotry based on information rather than experience. Right. So the reason why I'm a little bit more zealous about this now is because we're 3 kids deep, my wife and I, and we've done this a couple times, and it's always been like on the 25th. It just feels kind of weird that, like, we're taking a break from the fast for this, like, second. And, like, the thing is like, at a certain point, and I know we have to wrap up, and I'm sorry I'm going on so long.
No.
But the thing is, it's like the real world implications of, like, what happens when you do that, those don't go away just because, like, you got a blessing from Father. Right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, like, the demons that I've invited in by, like, being gluttonous and eating way too much fried chicken and mashed potatoes and pie and all that stuff, like the gluttony I've indulged in, like I still will have to face, and I'll have to limp along like the last 2 weeks of the fast. I'd rather just keep it to the point that I can.
Sure.
You know, to the point that I can.
Sure.
While not like, sorry family, I'm not going to eat any of this meat because I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian.
Oh, sweet. We'll have to continue the rest of the podcast with that light that just went out.
So maybe that's a cue.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a cue.
We'll hold these lights up like this for the rest of the time.
I'm gonna stay in the dark.
Yeah,
I like this.
There you go.
So
again, full disclosure, I most likely am totally wrong, but it's one of those things where I think I should focus when it comes to any season of fasting, rigorous like regiments of the church, such as Nativity and the Lenten season, all that kind of stuff. I think I should work on fasting is very important, but I think I should work on other things for myself before I tackle fasting, because to me, fasting, at least when I first entered the church, really wasn't a big deal. Like I could fast and it was like,
Sure. Yeah.
But now it's a little bit more of a bigger deal because of my wife's health complications and she has to have certain
everybody's
things.
different.
And again, I like the fact that I totally disagree with you.
And I'm at peace with that. Like that's not something that's going to keep me up at night. And like there's a Greek saying, I can't remember what it is, but it's keep your eyes on your own plate.
Yeah.
Like God and that basically.
I actually admire your diligence on.
I'm not diligent. Like I'm not. Like my food intake may, for the first time in about 7 years, maybe line up a little bit more with what the church asks. I'm still on YouTube. I'm still reading comic books. I'm still watching episodes of the '90s X-Men cartoon. Like those are good cartoons. I mean, it's great. That and the Spider-Man is fantastic. They're great.
Yeah.
Like they're hold up well. Good. Yeah. But
Batman,
like
90s Batman
that's about the best of the best. Yeah, that's about the best of the best.
Best Mr. Freeze characterization.
I mean that Heart of Ice episode is incredible.
It make you cry.
It's the reason
make you cry.
That's the reason why also, like, if it really came down to it, I'd always have HBO Max. Like, I would probably get rid of Disney Plus and stuff like that. Because, it'd be a bummer to say goodbye to those 90s Marvel. There's, like, 2 of them. Yeah. They're really good. But on DC, you've got Batman, you got Superman, you got Justice League, Unlimited. Like, those are, right away, like, 4 amazing shows.
Oh, my God. So good.
But the last thing I'll say is that, like, God deals with each person differently, so like it's not for me to look over and be like, well, I see you're eating bacon, what's up with that, like I didn't realize you were so sinful, but like this year I'm was given a little bit stricter to a degree. I mean, it's not that strict, but it's just like for a specific reason, to work on a specific thing. So in that sense, like,
are you gonna be a deacon?
Oh gosh, no.
I'm all looking at you wistfully.
No.
Are you gonna be a deacon?
No, that's not my plan.
No.
Who knows? That's someone else's plan, but that's not my plan. So I know it.
Yeah, to each again, according to what your spiritual father prescribes, all that kind of stuff. Father Turbo's most of the time pretty strict with me about certain things, but Yeah, and like it'll all work out.
I went to a work meeting or a work lunch, and they ordered a ton of meat, and it was right in the middle of the fast.
Did you stop everybody and say, "Excuse me"?
So that's the end of the story. Is that I stood up and I said harumph, and I threw my napkin down and said, "Well, I never," and walked out. No, I ate the meat, and I didn't make a big deal out of it. I just turned out to eat too much of it.
Yep.
And then that was that. And I was like, okay, fine, that's fine.
Amen.
So.
And on that note, we're going to have to wrap it up here for this evening. There's a lot of stuff I would love to talk about, but it is late. I need to go to bed.
Me too.
I am very sleepy.
I think my son is going to be up in about 4 hours. Probably 4 or 5 hours.
You need to sleep more than I do. But before we go, Andrew, favorite Christmas song of all time, go.
Ooh, I would have to say probably "Oh Holy Night" by Nat King Cole, but Celine Dion has a fantastic "Oh Holy Night." She absolutely out of this world, kills it. Is each time you think she can't go any higher and any like longer of a note, she blasts another one out. Then she's just like belting. She's absolutely incredible. Like absolutely incredible.
Kind of semi follow-up question, and just answer pro con. Mariah Carey's Christmas song.
Oh, pro. I love that song.
Do you really?
It's a really, really well-written song.
Son of a gun, man. That's awful.
Oh, no.
No, it's terrible.
It's poppy, it's cringy, it's horrible, but like at the same time, like for a produced, like it's catchy, it's well-written, there's good song structure, and she's a very talented singer.
She is a very talented singer.
Like, I like Mariah Carey.
Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues is my all-time favorite Christmas song.
Yeah.
And then followed very close second by White Christmas, Bing Crosby.
Yeah.
And I love any version of Silent Night, Silver Bells. I love it all.
Yeah, no, I have a pretty awesome playlist, and then I have that Grandma's Cottage on there, which is like, next time you want to like feel warm about your family, just turn on Grandma's Cottage and just like watch them. And it's just like suddenly your home will feel like a cottage. You'll be like homey, and it'll be warm and lovely. I love it. Yeah, I love it.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of which, Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Happy New Year. We wish you all the love and all that good stuff. Please enjoy the Nativity fast if you guys are participating in that. Don't forget to like and subscribe down at the bottom, and leave us a comment, and or not, as Andrew would say. Or not. And shakes his head disagreeingly. But thank you so much for listening to the Paredox Podcast. I'm Gabe. That's Andrew. And we will see you next time. Bye.